Secret 20, the pause before the answer 20th. A truthful answer to a simple factual question is retrieved from memory. It does not need to be built, it simply needs to be recalled, and recall happens fast. Ask someone what they had for breakfast this morning and the answer is immediate because it's just a fact from memory. But a story being constructed in real time requires cognitive work. It requires decisions, which details to include, which to omit, how to frame it. What to say about what was not said. If you ask someone something factually simple, where were you Tuesday evening? And there is a significant, unusual pause before the answer arrives. That pause is not recall time. It is construction time. And the fact that construction is happening tells you something important. Secret 21, verbal leakage 21st. Dark psychology identifies a phenomenon called verbal leakage. The moments when a person's real feelings or intentions escape through the gaps in their controlled speech. These leaks almost always appear dressed as something else. A joke, a hypothetical, an offhand comment. The colleague who says, "just kidding," after a comment about deserving your position. The partner who accidentally mentions an ex in a completely unrelated context. The friend who jokes about wishing something bad would happen to someone they are jealous of. No. There are no accidents in language. The unconscious mind always releases what the conscious mind is working to contain. When someone follows a pointed statement with "just kidding," believe the statement. The "just kidding" is the lie. Secret 22, answering a question with a question 22nd. When you ask someone a direct question and they respond with a question of their own, and that question deflects from yours, they are not curious. They are buying time, redirecting, building a wall. Did you tell them what happened? Why would I do something like that? Is not an answer. It is a deflection. An innocent person with nothing to hide almost always answers the actual question first, before asking anything in return. The deflection question appears when someone needs a moment to decide how to handle your original question, which means the answer to your original question is something they are managing rather than simply sharing. Secret 23, first choice reveals true preference 23rd. When someone is offered a choice where to sit in a restaurant, which topic to discuss first, what to order, their first instinct is their truest preference. Their second and third choices are filtered through social awareness. What will seem polite? What the other person expects? What is appropriate? But before the filter activates, there is a moment of pure, unguarded impulse. Watch what people reach for first. What they immediately move toward before they catch themselves and defer to social norms. In that first instinct lives the person they actually are, before the performance of who they want to appear to be. Secret 24, how they treat those who can do nothing for them 24th. I used to dismiss this. I told myself it was irrelevant. I was wrong. How a person treats those who can offer them nothing, service workers, cleaners, strangers, subordinates, is the clearest and most honest window into their actual character. Not the character they perform when they need something from you. Not the version they present in situations where being liked benefits them. The real character. The one that appears when there is no strategic reason to be kind. A person who is warm and generous with you but dismissive and cold to a waiter is not a warm and generous person. They are a strategic one. They are performing warmth in situations where it creates benefit and abandoning it in situations where it costs nothing to be cruel. This is one of the most reliable tests of character available to you. Never ignore it. Secret 25, what they find funny 25th. Humor is not trivial. It is a direct pipeline to values. What a person laughs at, and who they laugh at, reveals what they genuinely believe, stripped of the careful language they use in ordinary conversation. Dark psychology teaches us that humor used as a weapon is a sophisticated social tool. The person who consistently makes others the punchline, and then defends it as just a joke when challenged, is using humor as a low-cost delivery system for genuine contempt. The "just kidding" removes social accountability while the real message lands. Watch what people laugh at when they think no one is evaluating them. Their unguarded laughter is their uncensored worldview. Secret 26, the private, public gap 26. All human beings present slightly different versions of themselves in different contexts. That is not deception, that is social intelligence. But there is a point at which the gap between the public self and the private self becomes a warning signal. A person who is extraordinarily generous, warm, and respected publicly, but privately controlling, cold, and punishing, is not displaying two sides of a complex personality. They are displaying one deliberate performance and one authentic reality. And the reason the performance exists is because they know the authentic reality would not be accepted. When you encounter someone whose public persona and private behavior are dramatically different, always believe the private behavior. The public performance is what they want you to see. The private behavior is who they actually are. Secret 27, Reaction to Your Success 27. Pay very close attention to how the people around you respond when something genuinely good happens in your life. A promotion, a relationship, a creative success, an unexpected opportunity. A person who loves you fully will light up. Their joy will be reflexive, immediate, unguarded, genuine. They feel your win as partially their own because they are genuinely invested in your life rather than in comparison to it. A person who secretly competes with you will say all the right words. They will smile. They will congratulate you. And something will be just slightly off. The timing will be half a second late. The eyes will not match the mouth. There will be a flatness beneath the performance that they cannot fully eliminate because your success just activated something painful in them that they must now manage while maintaining appearances. Think about it. Your inner circle should celebrate you without counting the cost. Secret 28. Chronic lateness is a message 28th. Another truth that is uncomfortable but necessary. Chronic lateness, not occasional, not weather-caused, not once, but consistent, repeated, pattern-level lateness, is a form of communication. It communicates at a behavioral level that the other person's time is less valuable than yours. That waiting is something they can impose on you. And here is the dark psychology layer. People are almost never chronically late to things they cannot afford to miss. They are late to the appointments with people who they believe will absorb the cost, because power, even unconscious power, expresses itself through who can be made to wait. Pay attention to who keeps you waiting, and how often, because chronic lateness is rarely about time management. It is almost always about perceived importance. Secret 29, The Ben Franklin Effect 29. This one will challenge your instincts. If you want someone to like you, trust you, and feel warmly toward you, ask them for a small favor, not the other way around. Benjamin Franklin observed this centuries ago, and it has since been confirmed repeatedly by behavioral science. When someone does something for you, when they invest even a small action in your direction, their mind unconsciously creates a belief to match that action. I helped this person. I must like them. Otherwise, why would I help them? The brain manufactures the feeling to justify the behavior, and the reverse is equally true. When you do large unsolicited favors for someone who did not ask, you can inadvertently create resentment, because the favor implies they needed help, and needing help implies a lower position. The small ask is almost always more powerful than the grand gesture. Secret 30, Performed empathy versus real empathy 30th. Not all empathy is genuine. Some people have learned through observation, through social necessity, through calculation, to perform empathy. They understand intellectually that expressing understanding and care creates trust and connection. So they do it deliberately. But performed empathy has tells. It arrives slightly late. It uses the right words in the slightly wrong order. It focuses on what was said rather than on what was felt beneath what was said. It responds to the surface of your pain rather than to its core. Real empathy is reflexive. It arrives before you have finished speaking because the person already feels where your story is going. It does not need to announce itself. If someone's empathy consistently feels just slightly delayed, slightly scripted, slightly formula-shaped, it is. And knowing that is one of the most protective pieces of knowledge you can carry. Secret 31. Everyone has a price 31st. One of the foundational truths of dark psychology is this: every human being operates on an invisible reward system. They move toward what they want and away from what they fear. There are no exceptions. There are no people who operate outside this system, only people who have not yet revealed their parameters to you. Know what a person genuinely wants: recognition, safety, romantic love, status, financial security, intellectual validation, and you understand the engine beneath every decision they make. They are not random. No one is. Every behavior is the logical output of invisible internal pressures. When someone's behavior seems irrational, it is only because you do not yet know their currency. Secret 32: the self-image protects itself above all else. 32nd. Here is something that most people never fully admit about themselves. People will choose being right over being happy. They will sacrifice relationships, opportunities, and genuine growth to protect the image they have built of who they are. This is why you cannot argue someone into changing their mind with facts alone. When you attack a person's belief with evidence, you are not attacking the belief, you are attacking their identity. And the identity will fight back with everything it has. It will dismiss the evidence. It will find counterarguments. It will recruit emotions, because the alternative, accepting that the belief is wrong, requires accepting that the self that held the belief was wrong. And that is an extraordinarily painful thing. You cannot break someone's self-image and expect them to thank you for it. You can only create the conditions where revising their self-image feels like an upgrade rather than a defeat. That is an entirely different approach. Secret 33, Projection 33rd. This is one of the oldest and most universally ignored discoveries in psychology. People most passionately condemn in others what they cannot face in themselves. The person who lectures everyone about the importance of honesty, relentlessly, intensely, with unusual emotion, watch them closely. The one who is obsessed with loyalty, who makes it a defining theme of their personality and conversations. The one who speaks constantly about manipulation as if they can spot it everywhere. These are not always people who prize these qualities above all else. Sometimes, not always, but often enough that it becomes a diagnostic tool, these are people who are unconsciously aware of something in themselves. And by making it a public crusade against others, they simultaneously discharge the guilt and redirect the attention. Projection is not a flaw. It is a psychological survival mechanism. But once you can see it, it becomes transparent. Secret 34: 7% of communication is words. 34th. Research by Albert Mehrabian found that in emotional and interpersonal communication, only 7% of the message is carried by the words themselves. 38% is in the tone, the pace, the pitch, the rhythm, the emphasis. 55% is in the body, the posture, the gesture, the facial expression, the physical presence. This means that in any conversation where emotion is present, which is most conversations, the words are almost irrelevant compared to everything surrounding them. The same sentence can carry completely different meanings depending entirely on how it is delivered. That's interesting. I'm fine. We need to talk. None of these statements mean anything without tone and body. Stop listening only to words. Start listening to the whole person. Secret 35. The hierarchy of needs as a reading tool. 35th. Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs is not just a psychology textbook concept. In dark psychology, it is a practical diagnostic map. A person who is financially insecure, physically unsafe, or socially isolated cannot meaningfully prioritize self-improvement, creativity, or relationships, no matter how sincerely they say they want to. Their nervous system will not permit it. The lower needs override the higher ones every time. If someone you care about is behaving in a way that seems irrational, self-defeating, or puzzling, locate where they currently are on the hierarchy. Their behavior will almost immediately make complete sense. They are not being illogical. They are responding to a need that you may not be aware of. Understanding this is the difference between judging someone and actually knowing them. Secret 36. Cognitive dissonance. 36. When a person holds two contradictory beliefs simultaneously, or when their actions consistently conflict with their stated values, the mind experiences what Leon Festinger called cognitive dissonance. It is deeply uncomfortable. The mind cannot rest in that contradiction. It must resolve it. And here is the dark psychology truth. Far more often than changing their behavior to match their values, people change their values to justify their behavior. The mind rewrites the story so the person can remain the hero of it. This is why people who do genuinely harmful things rarely admit wrongdoing. It is not always malice. Sometimes it is the mind's desperate attempt to preserve internal consistency at the cost of external honesty. When you understand cognitive dissonance, the rationalizations you hear from people become transparent. You stop hearing justifications. You start seeing the gap they are trying to close. Secret 37. The Halo Effect 37. The halo effect is a cognitive bias so powerful and so universal that most people are completely unaware it is operating in them at all times. It causes us to assume that because a person is attractive, articulate, successful, or charming in one domain, they must be equally trustworthy, intelligent, moral, and capable in all domains. The positive impression in one area creates a halo that colors our perception of everything else. This is why physically attractive people are more likely to be found not guilty in court studies. It is why a well-dressed person is trusted more in a negotiation. It is why a confident voice in a meeting is frequently assumed to be an intelligent one, even when the content is empty. Dark psychology teaches you to recognize the halo effect in yourself, because the halo effect is not just an interesting bias. It is the primary mechanism through which people are most successfully manipulated. The person who seems too good to be true very often is. The halo they project is designed to disable your critical thinking before it can begin. Secret 38, the scarcity principle 38. The human mind is wired to assign more value to what is rare and less value to what is abundant. This is true for diamonds. It is true for opportunities. And it is true, sometimes devastatingly so, for people. When you are always available, always responding instantly, always making time, always present, always accommodating, you become the rock. Reliable, constant, taken for granted. And no one values the rocks on the ground, no matter how important rocks actually are. But when you are selective, when your time requires real effort to access, when your attention is genuinely limited, when your presence is chosen rather than defaulted, you become the diamond. Not because you changed who you are. Because the perception of scarcity shifts the psychology of value. This is not a manipulation technique. It is a fundamental operating principle of human psychology, and understanding it protects you from those who use it against you, while ensuring you do not give yourself away so freely that you become invisible. Secret 39. Recognizing the dark triad 39th. Dark psychology identifies three personality orientations that, in high concentrations, predict reliably harmful behavior in relationships and social environments. They are called the dark triad: an intense need for admiration, a grandiose sense of self-importance, and a fundamental absence of genuine empathy. The narcissist sees other people as mirrors, useful when they reflect the image the narcissist wants to see, and discarded when they do not. Machiavellianism, a cold, strategic, calculating approach to other human beings. The Machiavellian does not see people, they see assets, tools, and obstacles. Every interaction is evaluated for what it yields. Warmth is deployed when it serves. Cruelty is deployed when it does not. Psychopathy, emotional shallowness, impulsivity, and a structural absence of remorse. The psychopath does not feel guilt for harm caused, not because they chose not to, but because the architecture simply is not present. Here is how you recognize them in real life before the damage is done. They are extraordinarily charming at the beginning, magnetic, engaging. They make you feel seen and special. And then slowly or suddenly, as the relationship deepens, the mask slips. The warmth is replaced by entitlement. The admiration is replaced by contempt. The generosity is replaced by leverage. The mask always slips. The only question is how invested you are when it does. Secret 40, the most powerful psychological position 40th. And this is the most important part. After everything, after the eyes and the body and the words and the behaviors and the deep architecture of the mind, the most powerful position you can occupy in relation to any human being is this: understanding them completely, without needing anything from them. Because the moment you need something from a person, their approval, their love, their validation, their loyalty, your ability to see them clearly is compromised. Your vision becomes selective. You see what you want to be true. You explain away what you should be paying attention to. You override your own instincts to preserve the version of them that you need. The person who reads people clearly is the person who has no emotional stake in what they find. They are genuinely willing to see the truth, including the uncomfortable ones, including the ones that require change, including the ones that require walking away. That kind of clarity is not coldness, it is freedom.